So today, we're going to look at something that completely flips the script on low-level coding. It's called Parse, and it's all about turning the really complex, kind of scary world of runtime code generation into, well, into an art form. Let's kick things off with a pretty wild idea. What if you could actually paint with assembly instructions? I mean, seriously, imagine sculpting with machine code, or composing these incredible symphonies of optimization. That's really the heart of what Parse is all about. It's about taking the raw, brute force power of a machine and treating it less like a strict rule book and more like a canvas. And look, this isn't just about making things a little bit easier. Parse is going for a total paradigm shift here. It takes that, let's be honest, that intimidating world of LLVM, the super low-level toolkit that powers so many compilers, and it transforms it into something that's intuitive, type-safe, and feels way more like crafting something beautiful than just, grinding out code. Okay, so how on earth does it actually pull this off? Well, it all starts with a philosophy they call natural flow programming. And the whole idea here is to make the tool work the way your brain works. It's about aligning the code with your natural thought process, so generating it feels less like a chore and way more like you're on this awesome creative journey. And the way Parse gets that natural flow is by giving coding this really cool, distinct rhythm. Think about it. First, you start with the big picture, right? The structure. Then, you start filling in the details with all the computation. Next, you direct the whole show with the control flow. And before the big finale, you got to make sure everything's perfect. That's validation. And only then, only when it's all ready, do you hit go and execute it at just blistering machine speed. It's a logical progression that totally mirrors how we actually think through a problem. Now, the magic behind this natural flow, it's something they call the chain reaction system. And it's pretty brilliant. By using this really smart method chaining, the code you write starts to look and feel, well, like a sentence. It just guides you from one logical step to the next. And what's great is this doesn't just make it easier to read, it also seriously boosts type safety, because it literally stops you from trying to do things that just don't make sense together. All right, so let's step into the artist's studio for a bit. We're going to take a tour of the core parts of Parse, but I want you to think of them as the tools of the trade, the things you'll be using to build your very own computational masterpieces. The best way to get a handle on Parse's high-level ideas is with metaphors. And they've got some great ones. So at the very top level, you've got modules. Think of these as your art galleries. They're the containers for all your work. And inside those galleries, you find the functions. These are your individual symphonies, your masterpieces. And then each of those functions is built from what are called basic blocks, which are kind of like the different rooms in your gallery that guide people through the experience. And if we dive a little deeper into those functions, you can actually define their personality, which is so cool. You can control their visibility, you can make them private, just intimate to the module, or you can make them public, put them in the spotlight for everyone to admire. You can even set their conversation style. That's the calling convention. Basically, how they talk to other parts of the system. Is it going to be the universal CDEC that speaks to everyone, or more like the formal corporate language of the Windows API? Okay, so we've seen the philosophy, we've seen the tools in the studio. Now for the fun part. Let's see how this all comes together in practice. Let's go create our very first masterpiece with Parse. But wait, before we jump into the code, you've got to understand why this is such a game changer. Just look at this. The old way, working with the raw LLVM API, it's just a wall of text. It's verbose, it's complex, it's super intimidating. Now, look at the Parse way. It's just this one intuitive, fluent chain of methods that you can actually read. I mean, the difference is night and day. It is stark. And here it is, our first masterpiece. Yeah, okay, it's a simple function that just adds two numbers, but that's not the point. What's absolutely remarkable here isn't what it does, it's how it's written. The code itself tells a story. It flows like this clean, beautiful chain of commands. This is programming that feels more like you're writing prose, not wrestling with a machine. So what's the payoff for all this elegance? What do you get? The answer is just pure, unadulterated power. That simple chain of commands, it compiles right down to native assembly language. We're talking code that executes directly on the processor at full machine speed. You literally get the best of both worlds. This beautiful, elegant developer experience and just raw, screaming performance. Okay, so we've seen the power, we've seen the beauty. Let's talk about taking this to the next level. Let's talk about mastery. Because just like with any artistic medium, there are techniques and best practices that help you go from just making something to creating truly great work. Let's call these the master artist's rules. So here they are, the golden rules for any parse artist. These are your guiding principles. Always think structure first, compute second. Make safety through validation a top priority. When you name things, name with intention. And you know what? Embrace the natural breaks in the chain. They're there for clarity. And finally, you get performance through precision. If you follow these, you're not just going to write code that works. You're going to write code that is genuinely robust and elegant. So when you boil it all down, what really makes Parse so special? Well, it's that cognitive harmony, right? The API just flows the way you think. It's the incredible type safety that catches mistakes before they even happen. It's that JIT magic, that just-in-time compilation that gives you crash-free execution. It's the natural breaks that make your code so much clearer. And at the end of the day, it's the creative freedom it gives you to express really complex algorithms elegantly. You know, we started this whole journey with the idea of painting with code. And that's exactly what Parse does. It gives you the canvas, it gives you the palette, and it gives you the brushes. It completely reframes low-level programming, not as a technical chore, but as an act of pure creation. So we're going to end with a question, really a challenge, for you. The canvas is yours. What will you create?